This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by Dan Rafael here at the Fury Wilder 3 Media Centre. Dan, we've just witnessed the press conference, didn't get a face-off. Just want to get your initial reaction though to what we saw on stage.
Well, we saw two guys obviously with a lot of energy, let's say. And look, at the end of the day, it was good that they didn't do the face-off. I know there was definitely some miscommunication. If you listen to the top-ranked side, Bob Arum, he said to some of us after the press conference that there was an agreement ahead of time between Top Rank, between PBC, between Tom Brown from TGB Promotions, that they all agreed for the best of everything, no face-off. They don't want to jeopardize the fight. You all saw what happened at the Canelo Alvarez-Caleb Plant situation. This is a much more heated than that is, obviously. And by the way, if they need to get these two guys to go nose to nose to hype it up and to sell pay-per-view and sell tickets, then they're in the wrong business, because these guys already fought two fights and there's plenty of footage and plenty of pictures and plenty of discussion of these two guys in each other's face and throwing punches at each other's head. So they didn't need the face-off. Now, they called for the face-off because Kate Abdo, the very excellent host, who I thought handled the press conference as well as you could possibly handle that in the situation that she was in, she called to the face-off. But she didn't do it because she felt like calling for a face-off. That's coming from her producer in the ear. So somewhere on the Fox side, who was the production folks that were handling the televised press conference, told her to do the face-off, and that went against what they had agreed to. And Arum, who was 89 years old, by the way, I was kind of sitting behind him, jumped up out of his chair like as spry as you'd ever see a man 50 years younger, and was like, no press, no face-off. So they handled that the right way. But before that, obviously Fury and Wilder, what had been a relatively calm press conference, but they both certainly had a lot of interesting things to say. It got very belligerent between the two of them, and they just, Kate Abdo just sat back, and Tyson and Wilder just had their say. It's hard to understand some of it because they kept talking over each other, but certainly there's emotion there, and they both want to win very badly.
Do you think Tyson's gotten underneath the skin of Deontay at the end of that press conference?
I don't think so. I think that's... and I don't think that Deontay got under Tyson's skin. I mean, these are seasoned, veteran, professional heavyweight championship level fighters. They've seen everything. They've already seen each other twice in the ring. They've also fought other good opponents. This is nothing new. I think that if Tyson Fury is under Deontay Wilder's skin, as they say, it's from a long time before whatever could be said at a news conference, and the same thing goes for Fury and Wilder. Fury as far as his feelings towards Deontay.
Dan, how much of a surprise is it to you to see this approach from Deontay? I mean, the entire build-up to this third fight, before it was even agreed, Deontay's just always been very calm, collected, and he stayed out of the media limelight. How much of a surprise is it for you to see that, especially given what we've seen throughout his career, and in particular the two previous bouts?
Not a huge surprise, because he has had a lot of things to say over the years. He's always been pretty accommodating and pretty accessible, almost more so than your average heavyweight champion has been. I can say that having covered Deontay Wilder's entire professional career. So in this one, it's like, I want to win this one for me, so I'm doing it my way. So I'm not upset with him that that he didn't do as much or limited access. I get it. I mean, this is the man's livelihood, and talking to you or talking to me or talking to some other reporter for an extended period of time, I mean, he did his obligations. It wasn't like he didn't do interviews or do anything, just less of it. And that tells me that he's more focused. And if you're on the team of Deontay Wilder, you're a supporter of Deontay Wilder, I think that's probably a good thing.
This time round, Dan, what are you expecting from the pair of them when they do get into the ring on Saturday night? From Tyson, we've seen two very different approaches in both bouts. What do you expect to see though this time around? Well,
he said he's going all guns blazing, and when he told us that before the second fight, nobody believed him, and he's saying it again before the third fight. So,
now you don't know if to believe him.
Fooling me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So I'll take him at his word. I think he's going to go to him. He looks in good shape. Talking to him after the press conference, and you can see a little bit because he's not wearing a shirt. He's just got the jacket on. I think he's. It sounds to me like he's in a good place, and I think Deontay is similar. I think Deontay will be a little bit bigger, a little bit more bulked up, which is probably a good move. Deontay's never been, even for a guy that tall, he's never been a guy that's put on. He's never been a heavyweight. Let's say he's always never been heavier than maybe he might have touched 230 once in his life, but usually in two teens, 220s. I'm just looking forward to a legit good quality heavyweight championship fight, and I know we saw what happened in the first fight. I know we saw what happened in the second fight, but It's a rare trilogy of big-time heavyweights. For the championship, I think this is only the second time, because even though Ali and Frazier fought 3 times, the second fight was not for the heavyweight championship. It was for a regional title. Ali and Norton fought 3 times, to my recollection. Only the third fight was actually for the world title. The other 2 were for regional titles. Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield, those were 3 that were all for the title. So that's the second one. And then also the famous rivalry between Floyd Patterson and Johansson were also 3 world title fights. So this may be only the third time in boxing history that there's been a trilogy for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's a rare thing, and I'm excited for it.
Dan, what do you think Malik Scott will bring into the corner of Deontay Wilder that he's maybe not had previously?
Well, I liked what Malik was saying at the press conference where he was talking about, we're not trying to change Deontay Wilder. I'm not trying to give him anything new. I'm just trying to get him to do the things I've seen him do. Because remember, Malik may be new as the head trainer, but Malik has been with Deontay in his camp for several years and a number of fights. They've known each other for quite a long time and even fought each other once years ago. So I think it's the right attitude. You're not going to reinvent Deontay Wilder. He's always going to rely on the right hand. But if you can get him to do a few other things that you've seen personally in camp, in other sparring sessions, and just try to go to school on that, drill, you don't really need to drill him on the right hand. What you need to drill him on is, maybe the right distance, maybe some footwork things, maybe using his jab more. All things that Malik claims that are things that he's seen Deontay already do. So they just sit there and take the things that he already knows how to do and repeat. And when you do that for months and months and months, and then, of course, the delay in the fight, you got even more months to do it, you hope that it takes and it becomes just like muscle memory. So I think he brings that element to the camp. And frankly, Deontay loves him like a brother, trusts him. And I've always said this, and I truly believe this. Now, trainers are important, obviously, and certain trainers in right situations can really make the difference between winning and losing. But a lot of times the trainer is just there. But the reason why it's important is it's if the boxer believes in that trainer. That guy could be the worst trainer in the world, but if the fighter believes in him, that's going to make him think better and be, more confident when he hits the ring. And again, I don't know Malik Scott as a trainer. He has never really trained anybody. This is his real first assignment as a head trainer. He was a good heavyweight in his day, a middling contender. But Deontay believes in him, and that's a critical thing. And if he didn't believe in his other team, that's a problem.
Dan, Tyson heads into this fight as the favourite. Who do you rather edge towards heading into Saturday night?
I was on an airplane coming from Washington, D.C. area where I live out to Las Vegas. It's a long flight. So while I wasn't sleeping, I spent a lot of time thinking about just that because, now it's real and that people are going to ask you who you're picking and, you may think one thing when the fight gets made, you think another thing, you might see an interview or you see a video clip. I'm being truthful, I go back and forth on this fight quite a bit. I mean, I know that Tyson Fury is the favorite. He should be the favorite. Most people thought he won the first fight in one completely different style than he fought the second fight where he totally dominated and scored a knockout, stoppage, when the corner threw in the towel. And he changed his style completely, said he was going to go out and just blast him out, and he did that. I think he can do that again. But I also think that Wilder can be a lot better than he was in the second fight. If Malik Scott is to be believed and the seeming focus that Deontay does have, he's still dangerous with that right hand. Tyson will tell you that. He's dropped him twice with it in the first fight, and the second one, knockdown, was a split second from ending the fight where he wouldn't have even ever had a rematch, most likely. Forced to pick, I probably have to pick Wilder. Let me read back up. Forced to pick, I probably have to pick Fury, possibly in another knockout like in the second fight. But there's a little something in me that says, I'm not going to be surprised at all if Deontay goes out there and gets him. I know that's kind of trying to have both sides of the fence, but that's how I feel.
Dan, I just want to take you back 2 weeks to another big heavyweight fight which took place in London. Anthony Joshua, Alexander Usyk. Alexander Usyk with a terrific unanimous decision victory. What was your thoughts on the fight? Now you can look back as well.
Well, number one, as a fan, it was a very enjoyable fight to watch. It was a heck of a fight. Both those guys, they left it all in the ring, and you can't ask the athletes to do anything more than that. So they gave us, as you guys in Britain like to say, they gave value for money. So I appreciate that. I respect them both a lot. I thought Joshua would have a hard time with Usyk, but ultimately he would win. He just was never able to figure out the southpaw situation. He couldn't get away from the straight left hand. Usyk showed a very good chin, which we kind of knew he had as a cruiserweight, but you're never sure about. When you step up in the heavyweight division, it's a different ballgame. I personally felt like that Joshua just fought the wrong fight. Why are you giving up your 3 inches in height? Why are you giving up, 20 plus pounds, or what should have, he was about 20, a little under 20 pounds. But I think that Joshua should have maybe even been a little heavier, really put on the bulk. Why are you going to stand in the middle of the ring and try to box with a guy who's a master supreme boxer when you're the guy that should be aggressive, backing him up? The last place in the world that Anthony Joshua should have wanted to have that fight take place was in the middle of the ring. That's where most of the fights seemed to take place, and Usyk was able to move to the side, do what he needed to do. Joshua had to go to him, push him into the ropes, back him up. I'm not saying be dirty, but, make the referee tell you not to do certain things. You know what I mean? And Joshua just did not do that. I think when he watches the tape, he's going to regret the style in which they fought. I think he can win the rematch if if it takes place, which it seems like it will. Doesn't have to make any crazy changes. Just have to put in a different game plan. It has to get a little more toughness. I'm not saying he's not a tough guy, but bite down. Want it more. I mean, his fans can't want it more than can't want it more for him than he wants it himself. You got to get in there and be nasty, be mean in the ring, be a dog. And that was not with the Anthony Joshua that we saw.
Dan, we've seen some people suggest over social media that maybe since the Ruiz defeat in New York, AJ hasn't let his hands go as much, and maybe he's a little bit more concerned or worried possibly about what's coming back at him. Do you see that in him now since that defeat?
I think that's a reasonable thing to talk about and to look at. That was like a life and death moment, sort of, if you will. That certain guys, when they have that kind of moment, they don't ever really make it back. Not that they still can't be effective and fight at a high level. The one example I always think about when people mention that, because you're not the first one to ask me about that, go back into the 80s when Hector Camacho was at his absolute greatest, and he fought a fight against, I can't remember who it was against, Rosario, I think. Whatever, the point was he got rocked in that fight, really shook to his boots, almost got knocked out. Camacho never tried to engage again the rest of his career. He always was, that moment changed him. It was life and death. It was safety first for the rest of his career. It was hit, and just run if he had to. He won a lot of titles and won a lot of fights and made a lot of money, but he was never the flashy, super exciting guy he was before that because of what happened in that particular fight. And I'm not saying that's what happened to Joshua, but it's understandable if people think that. It's up to him to prove that that's not the case. Now, he got stopped by Ruiz in the first fight. He fought a very safety-first, cautious approach in the second fight. I thought that was a great game plan that they put in to do what you have to do to win the fight, not put yourself in harm's way, and get the titles back. Then he fought the way he normally fights against Pulev. But you can do that against a guy that's a good contender, but not an A-level contender. And that's what Pulev was. Against Usyk, a master fighter like he is, I felt like he was maybe a little bit gun-shy. That's just being honest.
Final thing, Dan, we obviously saw today that Eddie Hearn's announced he's picked up the Teofimo Lopez-George Kambosos fight now. I just wanted to get your take on that entire situation.
I'm so sick of that situation. I mean, Triller, when it first happened in February, when they won that purse bid for over $6 million, you're like, wow, that's impressive. There's a new player in the game. It's going to bring a lot of excitement and money to the sport and certainly to the boxers. They had done a very good job in the way that they promoted and put on a few months earlier the exhibition match between Tyson and Roy Jones. So you're like, okay, based on that, they did a hell of a job with that promotion and that event. And now they're still going to do some of these sort of circus act type fights, but now they're also getting involved in a real boxing match. They hired, my good friend Jim Lampley to be the voice of their major fight. So that's a testament to show that they were serious about being involved in these real bouts. And then, it wasn't their fault that the fight got postponed when Lopez got COVID, but they set it up early June. They moved it up to get away from Floyd. Then came the COVID situation. And ever since that, they have just done everything in their power to make it difficult for these guys to get into the ring. They've just been dishonest about so many different things. And I knew that when the Kambosos team moved to get them defaulted on their purse bid, knowing the IBF rules as I do, and their way that they handle things, I felt like there's nothing that the IBF could do other than default them. So when I got here to Las Vegas, here on Wednesday, late morning Las Vegas time, I got to my hotel room, and within minutes, 3 different sources sent me the letter from the IBF that they had in fact been defaulted. I wrote a story about that. And now Eddie Hearn, as the second bidder in that auction, he's going to do the fight. And one thing, for all the nonsense that Triller put everybody through, and the amount of money that they just wasted for stupid reasons, including the over $1.2 million that they're going to lose because I had to put that up in a deposit that will go to the fighters, that was done as went to the IBF, that was held until it would go to the fighters after the fight. At least with Eddie Hearn, you know you're going to get a real promotion. He's going to do a good job. Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, they put on good shows. They're professionals. They know how to do an event. There's no bullshit. They know how to get out there and promote. And the fighters, you don't have to worry about them getting paid. And the fans are going to enjoy it. So, from that standpoint, yes, the boxers are going to make less money on the Matchroom bid than they would have on the Triller bid. But the Triller money wasn't real. Matchroom's money is real.
All right, Dan, as always, it's been a pleasure to catch up with you. I'm sure it probably won't be the last time this week, especially if it does kick off as the week progresses. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking to me once again.
Oh, you got it. Anytime.